Welcome back to another Q&A, guys. So the first question this week asked about refeeds and diet breaks and kind of what my experience is with them with clients. Do I think that they work and stuff like that? And I would say that with refeeds and diet breaks, it's my experience is that it's definitely not a game changer. Like, I wouldn't expect large different results compared to just kind of dieting straight through. And I think that refeeds and diet breaks, they can be helpful from sometimes a hunger management standpoint, and just mentally being like, okay, we're going to diet here for 4 to 6 weeks, but then we're going to take a little bit of a break, bring those calories up, or hey, we're going to push it a little bit harder this last week or two, but following this, we're going to bring those calories up and feel a little bit better. It does have some of those benefits, but I would say that some people experience more hunger when they have like diet breaks and refeeds and they bring those calories up a little bit. And it's not uncommon to feel more hungry in a refeed or diet break. And to define terms a little bit, when I say refeed, I'm talking about bringing calories up for maybe 1 or 2 days throughout the week. So your average calories throughout the week are the same in a deficit, but you just have a couple of days to where your calories are higher. So on those other days, your calories are kind of lower on average than if you just dieted straight through. And then for a diet break, what I'm talking about is bringing calories up to maintenance for probably several days, like an entire week, like during a deload week. All right. And I've had very mixed results, and it really depends on the person, on whether I kind of like to use them or not. Some people, refeeds work really well just with their kind of life schedule of having higher days on the weekend, although other people might experience being more food focused on those days or leading up to those days because you're just waiting for those refeeds all week, and it can kind of elicit kind of a restrict then binge kind of mentality of having those higher days followed by kind of lower days throughout the week. So I think that you have to be a little bit careful with it, and it really does depend on the person. Now, from a physiological level, are there benefits to like your resting metabolic rate and maintaining your NEAT levels or things like that throughout a fat loss phase? And I would say potentially, I think that there's some research suggesting that it could help a little bit, but I don't see it making enough of a difference, especially during like a standard cutting phase, like 8 to 12 weeks. I don't see it making enough of a difference for it to warrant a diet break and refeed method or approach being far better than dieting straight through. And some people just like to hit that rhythm of same calories every day, same foods every day for the next 8 to 12 weeks, and we're just going to nail it. So I think it really depends. My default tends to be not using refeeds and then just using a deload and diet break like once every 4 to 6 weeks and pairing the deload with a little bit of a diet break. That kind of default seems to work well for a lot of people. They like kind of having that, a little bit of that break every 4 to 6 weeks, and having calories just a little bit higher on each day throughout the week. They tend to like that opposed to having the ups and downs of refeeds and diet breaks, although some clients really like the refeeds more. And I'll do refeeds alongside diet breaks. Now, another question is whether you would see training benefits of having higher carb days and refeeds and stuff like that. And intuitively, my initial response is probably. I think that having those higher days might help. But when thinking about it, like if your average carbs are still the same throughout the entire week, would I really expect much differences in training across the week? Probably not. I would expect similar kind of glycogen levels throughout the week. Now, if you made sure to have a diet break and bring those carbs up throughout your diet break, that's another kind of side note too, is with refeeds and diet break, diet breaks, it's probably a good idea to increase your calories via carbohydrates in large part, as that's going to help kind of restock those glycogen stores a little bit and help out with your higher intensity training that we're doing in the gym. But I would expect that if you compared just linear dieting straight through compared to having a deload and diet break or some refeeds in there, that the deload and diet break would probably, on average, maybe have just a little bit better training with making sure to kind of take that pit stop, eat a little bit more food and stuff like that. But when just comparing like refeeds to dieting straight throughout the week, I really wouldn't expect huge differences in your training performance, as I think that your average carbs throughout the week is still going to be pretty similar. So this is a topic that could be a full like podcast episode. And by the way, my favorite form of content is probably podcasts. And for this YouTube channel, I would much prefer to be doing podcasts with talking with people and stuff like that rather than just me monologuing. I know you guys like me and all, and I'm good looking and all that stuff, but I think that you guys would appreciate some sort of guest and podcast type stuff too. So, but the tricky part is that I don't want to have overlap and just have the same thing as Revive and stuff like that. So I don't know. I kind of want to do a podcast, but I don't know what to do about. If you guys have ideas, let me know. But all right, second question. Do you track your sleep and calories? So first on sleep, not particularly, but like it's hard to kind of not have an idea of where your sleep is at. I shoot to get 6.5 to 7.5 a night, and as long as I'm not like feeling dead throughout the day, then I think that's fine. So I don't track it super strictly. I think that keeping an eye on your sleep and how much you're sleeping can kind of happen by default, and you probably don't need to track it super strictly, although sometimes tracking it can help you realize if your sleep's not super great. But also sometimes tracking it can result into you stressing about sleep, which can hurt sleep and be a net negative. So sometimes I think it's better to just not track it, and if you're not noticing any problems like with your energy throughout the day, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you are noticing that your sleep is quite poor, which you would know without tracking it, then you might need to take steps to kind of work around that, all right? So I don't particularly track it specifically, but I do like to keep an eye on it for clients and stuff like that. Now, that's another story to where maybe I shouldn't have clients track their sleep because maybe it just makes them worry about it more, but that's not something clients have reported to me, that tracking their sleep makes them worry about sleep more and get anxious about it, and it hurts sleep. So although I'm not sure if that's something they necessarily notice either. So definitely something I can ask additional questions about to clients and stuff like that and kind of tweak as I go here, all right? But regarding my calories, not really. I haven't dieted for quite some time now, which you can tell by my jawline, and I eat most of the same foods kind of all the time anyways, so I don't necessarily need to track them to know that I'm still in kind of about right area. Now, since I have a pretty structured in what I eat to where most of my meals look pretty dang similar, it's also quite easy for me to, if I have something going on, which I don't because of COVID, but in a different scenario, then it's quite easy for me to like go out to eat or go with friends and stuff like that and just choose something that is similar to what I would usually eat kind of at that meal and stuff like that, and saving up calories. Like, although I don't specifically MyFitnessPal stuff, I still eat most of the same foods, same kind of meal structure and stuff like that, and it's pretty similar. Now, I would say that for me personally, it is nice kind of not logging things in MyFitnessPal and stuff like that. Like I did that for several years, and I think the last year or so, I've kind of just not done it, and it's really super nice. Now, it can be scary to kind of make that transition, and that's a whole podcast episode as well. But I think that step one is like, you can still stick to the kind of same foods, still kind of weigh out your stuff, but easing off of needing to plug things in every day might kind of help. And then kind of slowly easing up from there can kind of help, and maybe making, okay, for this meal, I'm not going to waste stuff out. I'm going to kind of eyeball it, and then slowly working each meal up from that, and kind of getting to the point to where you're not tracking. And I'm not sure if not tracking should be the goal for everybody, but I think that, we really care about our physiques and stuff if we're kind of into this lifting thing. And it's easy to think that if we don't track, we won't get to our goals or not get there as efficiently, which I think is true in a lot of cases. Like if you're in a fat loss phase, then, or you've never tracked before or stuff like that, then I think tracking really can provide a benefit. But if you've been tracking for a while, you generally know where you're at. And if you feel like tracking is a restriction on your life, then I think working towards a more flexible approach can definitely help. But I don't think that everybody should not track. But I do think it would be easy to say that you need to track because of your physique goals, when in reality, I think that you can maybe take a different approach to things, or just be a little bit more flexible, and maybe realize that, wow, my life's kind of a little bit better now that I'm a little bit more loose with this, That's definitely what I noticed, So I think it's something that you can try out. But then again, I'm not saying tracking's bad or anything like that, all right? Next question. Who are some good people to kind of follow in the industry? And I'm 100% going to forget people, but I would say that 3DMJ, if you're watching me, you probably know who 3DMJ is. JPS Health and Fitness are really solid. Chris Bearcat has some really good stuff. Of course, the guys over at Renaissance Periodization, Mike and Jared Feather, and all those guys post some really good stuff. The Breaking Binge Eating Instagram channel by Jake Lenardin, I believe I'm not messing that up, is really solid as well. Of course, you have Menno and Mac Nutrition. Martin McDonald posts a lot of good stuff. Chris Beardsley posts a lot of like sports or strength and conditioning stuff. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word. So more kind of athlete, but a lot of hypertrophy stuff too. I'm totally forgetting a lot of good names here. But those are some ones that come to the top of my head. Oh, Stronger by Science, Greg Knuckles, Mass, all those guys post some good stuff. Dr. Bill Campbell posts some good stuff. Dr. Cody Hahn, I can't believe I forgot my man. So all those guys are good. If you go and look at the old episodes of The School of Muscle, maybe I should just bring that back. Nah, we got the Revive podcast. I can't have it be the same. But if you look at all the people I had on there, all solid people to follow. Like Valentine Tambosi is a really good one. AJ Morris is a good one. And I like getting a different perspective from a lot of different people, all right? So all those would be good. And the final question that I'm going to answer this week asked me about direct neck and trap training, and it specifically asked me what I do for my neck and traps, as definitely a couple of muscle groups that have come up for me in the last kind of couple of years and kind of asked me what I kind of did for that. So this isn't me saying that you should train your neck and traps directly or anything like that. It's purely what I've done to kind of help see those gains there. And my rationale for training my neck and traps goes back to when I was playing football in high school. I had a bigger neck because carrying that helmet around all the time. Went to college, neck got smaller, didn't like the look, so I wanted to just get it back to previous levels. And I think that your neck and your traps make a large difference in your appearance when you're in clothes, which for most of us anyways, we wear clothes. So at least most of the time, I'm not going to go any further with that. But, wow, totally derailed myself. Yeah. So I think it makes a big physical appearance. So what I did to kind of bring those up, it was mostly just 3 days a week for each of them, to where for neck, 3 sets, 3 days a week of flexion and extension. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just using a plate. And then for extension, just getting a harness with some bands. And that's kind of what I did for that. 3 sets, 3 days a week, spread across the week, challenging sets. And I definitely think that you would get some growth there. If you're just starting, maybe just start with like 2 sets, 3 days a week like that. And I think that you'll definitely see some growth. And I did the same exact thing for trap. So like 3 sets, 3 days a week. I personally only like dumbbell shrugs, to where everything else just doesn't feel great for me. But dumbbells, I really like to let them stretch and hang forward. And then I pull up and back with them and really squeeze those traps. And that feels really good for me. And doing that a few days a week, I think that you can see some trap growth. And also, I have face pulls in like once a week. And if you do your face pulls and you really kind of focus on squeezing your traps at the end range of motion, you can get a really good trap stimulus there as well. All right. So in general, what I did for them, and I'm not saying that like everybody should be training their traps and neck. There's definitely trade-offs with doing this. But what I did was about 3 sets, 3 times a week, spread across the week. And I think that, you don't need to, with these muscles, I don't think that you need to go up to like 15 to 20 sets to see good results. I think that your neck's already getting some stimulus for other compounds you're doing. Same thing with your traps. And I think that your neck anyways definitely can respond well to lower volumes. Your traps, you might need to up that a little bit as you go. But I think that would be a great starting place. All right. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know if you have any podcast ideas. I don't know why I really want to go the podcast route, but let me know if you have any ideas for me. All right. All right. See you guys.